We are in Parashat Ba'Midbar. We're starting a brand new book. Just finished the book of Vayikra. That on the surface seems like I shouldn't even say that, but seems like a very boring book. Just focusing on korbanot, on the sacrifices, on the offering, the attire and the gear of the Kohanim. It doesn't seem like so much excitement. But now we're starting a whole new episode in the Torah, the book of Bamidbar, which many times I have wondered, they traveled 40 years in the desert. We have barely any information of what they did there. So what did they do for 40 years? How do you live in a desert for 40 years? People go to the desert for 3 days. They come back with stories from here till tomorrow, and that is barely possible. How do they live 40 years in the desert? So in this entire Chumash, it's giving us a little bit of what was going on there. A little bit of politics with Korach, some arguments, Lashon Hara, like a regular community. Everybody hating each other, everybody going against the leaders. So we're getting, I call it the soap opera of the Torah. So now we're starting a brand new Chumash. I love the Chumash of Bamidbar because it does give us a little bit perspective of what was going on there. Because we have some imaginary scene that they're intense and what they're doing there, but it wasn't as how we imagine. You have to imagine 3 million people living in the middle of the desert. 3 million people is the size of a large metropolitan city. There's no such size city in Israel right now. 3 million. And how did they communicate? How did they, just the logistics of moving such a thing, that in itself is an entire miracle. But today I want to focus about something that is, of course, connected to the parasha, connected to the time that we're in, which is called Sfirat HaOmer. And I like taking the teachings of the Torah and not only learning the historical part, not only learning the halacha, the law, not only learning the mystical reason and the teaching behind it, is how can I take what I learn and apply it in my life? If I don't apply it in my life, then I've lost 90% of the power of the Torah. Our sages say, Gadol ha-Talmud hamavi ladei maaseh. When is the learning great? Is when you transform it into action. If you didn't transform it into action, so what are you learning? You're learning history? What are you learning exactly? Now, chas v'shalom, don't take me wrong. Even if you did not apply it into action, you still learned the Torah. But my approach is that you're sitting, you're investing now a whole hour. Now what? What am I going to do with it? What can I gain from a certain message from the Torah to become a better person? Because my goal in this world is to refine myself and I can leave this world and say, I did something. I don't want to come up to the heavens after 80, 90 years and tell them, you know what, I was a failure, I didn't do anything. I wasted my time. And everybody should have the approach is, how am I coming up to the world above? What's going to be on my resume? What did I do? What did I achieve? With that said, one can ask, so if this is the case, what would be considered the most important thing right now that I need to focus on? Now, if you ask a lot of people, they will tell you, okay, I think the most important thing right now is my health. Without health, I can't do anything. Okay, very good answer. Another approach will be, I have to focus on my livelihood. Without money, how am I going to survive? I can't even do anything in this world without money. I think that one of the most important things right now in my life that I need to know how to manage and focus on is my time. And I'll explain very thoroughly why time is one of the most important things you need to focus on. And the simple answer is because you can't buy time. You can't acquire time. Now, one can argue and say, you can kind of buy health. You go to a good doctor, you go on a good diet, good nutrition, or anything else. Time you can't buy. You can't go anywhere and say, I need another hour. I need an extension. That works maybe in sports or other things. I need an extension. There's no buying time in the world. So if I can't buy and acquire time, for me, that's a very important factor in my life. Because if I'm sitting now for 5 minutes and not doing nothing, I lost 5 minutes. Now, I don't need to say the famous cliche, time is money. We're not about money, but it means time has value. And why is that so important? Because if you miss the moment, that's it. That moment will never come back. A moment, a day, an hour. When you focus on that, and when you meditate on that, you say, oh my gosh, my time is very valuable. We just spoke before the class. The time management. Every minute here is important. How many people tell me, you're not friendly. Why? I ask you a question, you run. It's not that I'm not friendly. I gave you my answer. I need to go. I'm not here to schmooze hi, how are you? And tell me about your vacation. And no offense, I don't care. I have things to do. If I don't do what I need, if I don't go on my checklist, the day is wasted. Very interestingly, the Chafetz Chaim says something very poetic, and he says life is like a postcard. Now, in our generation, in our time now, people don't know what's postcards. When I used to travel 30 years ago, I would send a postcard home. Now you send 562 pictures on WhatsApp, and you conclude what was your day. I used to travel around the world when I was younger, and I would send my family a postcard once a week, once a month. I arrived, I'm here, I'm alive. So the Chafetz Chaim says life is like a postcard. In the beginning, you start with big letters, hello, how are you? I landed, the place is gorgeous. And then you start writing, and you start running out of place. So you start running on the side. And then you write on the bottom. And then slowly the letters become like this small. Why? Same thing with their life. In the beginning, I have a lot of time. We'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it next year. At the end of the day, I'm running out of days. I don't have any more room. I need to squeeze it all in. So if this is the case, then how do I really evaluate or value my time? I can tell you, and again, don't take it in a negative way. Take everything that I say in a positive way to inspire you to become better. Most people waste most of their time. Most people have no time management, no control over their time, completely unfocused on what they're doing 50 things at the same time, and at the end of the day, nothing is done. And the sad reality is that most people don't utilize their time the right way. Now, more than that, I need to know how to not only to value my time, but how to use my time the right way. Now, I know this question might not seem connected to the parasha, but we're learning from the Torah, so let's see what the Torah has to say. So like I told you, we're starting the book of Bamidbar. It's called Bamidbar, in the desert, and that's enough to tell me. It's going to tell me now in the next few weeks what was going on in the desert. What were they doing there? Now, like I asked you before, how do you live in the desert 40 years? I can't imagine living in the desert for 40 years. I can't even imagine living in the desert a week. Well, what am I going to do there all day long? How am I going to get my water, my food, my sustenance, protection, shelter? How do you live in the desert? Now, take a person from our generation without internet? Oh my God, what am I going to do without internet for a few minutes? And running water from a tap? So how did they live for 40 years in the desert? And not only that, what did they do there? So, an interesting concept that is taught in the book of Bamidbar is the strategic way how they carried the Mishkan. Now imagine now, most people can't imagine it in their mind. You know what are the logistics you have to carry the Mishkan? If it would be in our generations, it would be cranes, semi-trailers. I can't even imagine the logistics. How you move such a thing. First of all, take it apart. And then start carrying it. Now, it wasn't like put with cranes on a truck. It had to be carried on the shoulder. There was a whole logistic way how to do that. And in the book of Bamidbar, it's focusing a lot about the carrying of the Mishkan. Not the dismantling of the building, the carrying of the Mishkan. When you're thinking about it, the whole Mishkan is a temporary tent. It was all temporary. Now just think about that. No technology. Well, that I shouldn't even say. They had more technology than what we have, by the way. But without the mechanics or the machinery that we think that we will need, basic things like trucks and cranes, they go for 42 journeys. which means 42 times to take it all apart and then put it and load it, go with it. Sometimes the traveling would be weeks. It's not that they went from here 2 meters. Sometimes one travel, one masa, one journey, a few weeks. And then parking, building it again. How do you carry such a thing? Now, most people don't even know how the Mishkan looked. They're reading the book of Vayikra, they're skipping the pages. You know how huge it was? You know, just the poles, the pillars that surrounded the Mishkan were 5 meters high. This ceiling is 5 meters, 5.5 meters. Imagine these poles. And they were a third of a meter wide. You're talking here about these massive pillars. And then everything around it. How do you carry such a thing? Now, the way it worked is that the tribe of Levi was assigned to carry the Mishkan. The tribe of Levi had 3 families, the sons of Levi, Gershon, Kehat, and Merari. And the way it worked, that every family got a part and a responsibility in the Mishkan. All the what's called kelim pnimiyim, the internal vessels, the altars, the Aron HaBrit, the menorah, all the kelim, all the little utensils, that is what's called kelim pnimiyim, the pnimiyut, the more holy stuff, the more, it was in the Mishkan, that was given to the family of Kihat. Which is interesting because Kihat is not the firstborn. Kihat was the middle boy. And you would think the firstborn, the Bechor, he should get carrying the Mishkan, the altars and the menorah. And you have to understand everything is massive. It's all huge. It's not like a menorah, like a Chanukiah that you light candles on Chanukah. It was the size of a human being. So Kihat, the middle son, he gets to carry the kelim pnimim, all the vessels that go into the Mishkan. The next family, the family of Gershon, who was the firstborn, he gets to carry the yeriot HaMishkan, the curtains that go around the Mishkan. Now this is not a curtain like this. You have to understand the size of it. And there were a few layers. It's not one layer. It's a few layers. This is called Yeriot HaMishkan. The translation to it is the curtains, even though I don't like the word curtains, because it wasn't really curtains. It was just the cover of the entire tent. And that was given to the family of Gershon. And that in itself is also a very large piece. It wasn't like a little fabric. That's why I don't like the word curtain. Because curtain, you say, okay, what's the big deal? I'll wrap it up, put it in a bag. First of all, there were 3 layers of these curtains. Very large in size, and needless to say, very large in very big in weight. And then the makif, the surrounding part of the Mishkan, was given to the last family, to Merari. That was a real big task. That's already massive. Why? Because first of all, you had just the atzei shitim, the pillars that surrounded the Mishkan, 48 of them. So you have 48 pillars in the height of 5 meters. Each one is a third of a meter wide. 48 of them, just that. Besides that, there was the fence around the Mishkan. That's another 60 pillars. And all the parts around it. Now, you know, the pillars went into sockets. It's called adanim. You know that every socket was 50 kilos? And every pillar went into 2 sockets. So you're talking about 100 kilos made of silver that somebody needs to carry on them, because the rule was that it has to be carried on the shoulder. No trucks, no flatbeds. Carry it all by yourself. So just imagine, just these wood pillars, plus the sockets. The sockets are called adanim. And the adanim were made out of silver, and each one was 50 kilos. Now you have 2 adanim, 2 sockets for each pillar. Just imagine the weight. Forget about now the logistics. You do this, you do that. Now carrying it all. And this is a holy thing. This is not carrying a bag of stones. You're carrying the Mishkan. It actually says that many died from the family of Merari because they didn't carry it the right way, and this was Kedusha, and they died just because not handling the right way. So now when you're imagining all this, how do you carry such a thing? The manpower, the way to do it. And again, it's not that they had these massive trucks and cranes and drones from above to oversee everything, right? They're living in the desert. Now, when you're imagining all this, you come to the question, how do you carry all this? Okay, the Torah doesn't tell us how they carry that. But on the way, a miraculous act happens. And this we're not going to read in this week's parasha. We actually read it in next week's parasha. What happens? The nation of Israel, they erect the Mishkan, and then on all the journeys they take it apart. But at some point, there were a group of men, they were called Nasi'im. Nasi, if you translate the word Nasi, is a president. If you're looking at the translation of the Chumash, you will say a prince. I just call it the head of the tribe. Okay, every tribe had a Nasi, the head of the tribe. Now, there's a story, I don't know if you remember, that the Nasi'im were carrying with them a certain burden because they didn't do something that was not appropriate. What was that? When they were collecting money for the Mishkan, they came first to the head of each tribe. Can you give a contribution? They made a charity campaign, a GoFundMe campaign. We need money for the Mishkan. The Nesiim sent them away and said, collect the money from the people, and if something is missing, we'll add. In fact, what happened, they collected much more money, so the Nesiim said, okay, you don't need anything from us. But later on, they came to the conclusion, we didn't contribute to the Mishkan. So they were carrying with them a burden that we have no connection to the Mishkan. You know, when you get a link to some charity, some fundraiser, sometimes, even if you don't have money, look what the fundraiser is. You might want to give $1 just to be connected to that cause, to have a connection. Even if you don't, because you know what happens? Many times, I can tell you on myself, I get a link, go and donate to this fund. I go and I see they have already $200,000. Well, what did they need by $5? They already raised money. So that's the attitude of most people. Oh, they made it because it shows you the bar, how much they raised. And sometimes I say, I don't have money. Well, what am I going to give? $5, $10, $100? They need my $100? Yeah. It's not that they need your $100. You want a connection to the fundraiser, to the cause, to say, I have a partnership here. So the Nesiim found, they're like, you know what? We didn't give any money. The fact was that the Nesiim said, you go and collect money from the people. Whatever's missing, we'll add on it. In reality, they collected much more money, and the Nesiim stayed with no contribution. So as they're going in the desert, the Nesiim were like, you know, this is a stain on our record. Comes Issachar, and he says, I have a bold idea for the Nesiim. You didn't contribute anything to the Mishkan. How is about we buy wagons, and the wagons will help the tribe of Merari to carry all these beams and all these heavyweight sockets. Bold idea. It doesn't say anywhere in the Torah that they're not allowed to buy wagons. And again, don't imagine a wagon like a horse and buggy. The Torah calls it agalot, but I'm assuming it was a very large vehicle. So Issachar says, I have a solution. Buy the wagons. And then we'll give it to the tribe of Merari. Merari will put all the heavy weight, all the load on the wagons. And then you have a contribution to the Mishkan. Great idea. Great. Let's do that. Okay. Now comes a technical question. How many tribes do we have? 12. How many Nesiim? 12. How many wagons they got? That's what it says in the Torah. 6. What? Again, you're making a mistake? I mean, you messed up in the beginning by not coming and giving an example and contributing. Now, what are you, cheap? You sharing the contribution? Yeah, what are you coming to fix the problem of being stingy, and you sharing like two friends going to a birthday party? Hey, let's share the birthday present. You're contributing to the Mishkan. Buy the Rolls Royce of the wagons. What are you now pitching in and buying to me 6 wagons? Okay, so that brings us to two major questions. First question is why every president, every Nasi buys half a wagon or contributes half a wagon? Are you giving half a present? Buy 20 wagons. Let them have a few spare ones. More than that, like you said, you're coming to fix a mistake of being cheap or stingy, and you're giving a cheap present? Well, I don't understand. Give a full present. Go and buy a nicest and the best wagon. Okay. The simple explanation to that is that that's what they needed. They didn't need more than 6 wagons. They made a quick calculation, and it says very thoroughly and very in detail in the Talmud how they came to a precise calculation, how to put the pillars the right way, and the simple explanation, they only needed 6. That's it. Only needed 6. They didn't need more than that. That's the simple explanation here. But more than that, we're still left with the question, why wouldn't they come and do a much greater act and come with a large contribution? Okay, I understand that the simple explanation is that's what it was needed. But nevertheless, we're doing here a big act. You are the leaders. You are showing everybody how it needs to be done. Must be that there's some type of a message behind why they did not give more than 6 wagons. Okay, and like I told you, everything in the Torah, don't look at it as a historical book, don't look at it as a book either, but a guide to our life. And from all stories in the Torah, if the Torah chooses to tell me this story, must be that the significance behind the number, behind the message, behind everything. Because if the Torah was very particular, but the stuff 6 wagons, there's something behind it. Because technically, one might say, buy 12, have spare. You know, put it all around, show wealth, show power, show... No, the Torah says 6, then there's something behind it. Needless to say, that there's a message behind this whole story. So there's a story in the Midrash, and the story is talking about David HaMelech of King David. And King David was praising the master of the universe, how great is everything that you did. I don't need to elaborate on how many praises David HaMelech, King David gives. But at some point, David HaMelech turns to the master of the universe and says, you know what? You created such a beautiful world. Eze olam yafeh barata. I just don't understand how everything in this world is so precise. Everything is down to its detail. I don't understand one thing in creation. The spider. Why did you create a spider? Now that's the thought of David HaMelech. If I would be asked that, I would ask also, why do you create this? Why did you create that? But everything that Hashem created is precise. On the dot. Nothing is made unnecessary. Nothing is made in vain. So David HaMelech had this great question. Why did you create a spider? Okay. What did Hashem answer him? One day you'll run to me to thank me for creating a spider. Okay. Years pass. David HaMelech is selected to be the king. He's still not king because Shaul was not happy with this decision. And for many, many years, before Shaul loses his kingdom, he runs after David HaMelech and tries to kill him and to catch him. And okay. So there's one story that David HaMelech heard that Shaul is catching up, and he goes and hides in a cave. And Shaul HaMelech had very good intelligence, and he got the message, we know that David HaMelech is hiding in one of these caves over there. So they come with all the men, and they start looking for the David HaMelech. They go from one cave to another cave to another cave, and David HaMelech says, okay, at some point they'll catch up. I mean, how many caves there are? I'm one person in a small cave. There's an army of people here. David HaMelech already starts praying his last prayers. He's starting to say vidui, saying confession. And he says, okay, that's it. They're going to catch me. Shaul is going to kill me. A miracle happens, and a spider comes to the entrance of the cave and starts building a cobweb in the entrance of the cave. And he seals the entrance of the cave. The soldiers come and they say, okay, there's a cobweb here. Nobody can go through it. Nobody's in there. And they skip that cave. And David the Melech is saved. And needless to say, that David the Melech praises Hashem for creating the spider. So, from that we take that one of the most strongest foundation in the concept that is called Emunah, belief, is that everything that Hashem created has great wisdom behind it. Okay, I'll say it again. And that has not, even without Emunah, even beyond belief, even by regular common sense. But forget about common sense and intellect. We are required to believe in Hashem 100%. The greatest and most important foundation of Emunah is to know that everything that Hashem did, He did with great wisdom. You can't question Hashem, why is this? Why is that? Why Hashem did this? Why Hashem... That's already borderline heresy. Emunah is that I believe that everything that Hashem says, Akol b'chokhmah yatzar. Everything is in great wisdom, that it doesn't matter how much I will research, I will never come to understand the great wisdom behind everything that Hashem did, including all the negative things that we see in front of our face. More than that, nothing that Hashem did is unnecessary, is by mistake, or we have extra of. Everything is on the dot. If there right now is 5,600,322,042 fish in the water, that's the amount of fish has to be in the water right now. There's not extra fish right now saying, what am I doing here? And that will be the same thing with leaves, with flowers, with pebbles, with everything is on the dot. Now, if this is the case, then when it comes to the approach of Emunah, I need to understand nothing in this world happens without the supervision of Hashem, the fact that Hashem allowed it to happen, and Hashem orchestrated, designed it, and is the architecture of everything. And I said that many times. A lot of people don't like hearing it because I say, in many cases, when people ask, where was Hashem in the Holocaust? Big answer, big question that people ask, where was Hashem in the Holocaust? And my simple answer is, He did the Holocaust. If you think Hashem didn't do it, then that's 100% heresy. Who did it? A man? A psychopath? That was a puppet. Hashem was the one who designed it, allowed it, and did it. And if you question that, I'm sorry to tell you, that's heresy. Because if you're saying, no, a man did it, Hitler Yimach Shimo, so what are you saying, he's stronger than Hashem? He can bypass Hashem and do what He wants? Hashem has to allow it to happen. I know this is a very heavy statement, but that's the fact, and we have to accept that everything that happens in this world has a plan, has a reason, has a designated amount. I cannot say that's a mistake. I cannot, chas v'shalom, in any way say that Hashem made a mistake. Hashem doesn't do mistakes. Now, there's an example in the Talmud showing how do you see that there's a seder eloki, order, a divine order, because the Talmud says there are 4 things that a human being needs in order to exist: air, water, food, and shelter. Right? Air, water, food, and shelter. Now, what is the thing that we need the most? Air. No air, person dies. So where can you find air? Everywhere. Everywhere in the world is air. Okay, what's the next thing we need? Water. You can go without food for a few weeks, but water is more important. Where do you find water? Everywhere. There's water everywhere you're going to go. Okay, maybe one can argue and say in the desert there's no water. In the majority of the world, you'll find water. Next thing, what do we need? Is food. That also can be found almost everywhere. And shelter, which is the last and the least important of all, much harder to get. It's easier to breathe than to buy a house. Eventually you'll find a house, or you'll find a place to rent. But air, you can be without a home. I know people, including myself, didn't have a home for months. I lived in a car for a few months. Okay, I survived. But you can't survive without the water or without the air. So again, what we need to understand and to conclude so we can go to the next part is that the basics, the foundation of emunah, of belief, is that nothing is unnecessary in this world. Even a spider, even a fly, even a mosquito. One might say, why do I need these mosquitoes? They just bother everybody. I don't see any use for them. Or a spider or another thing. No. So first of all, we have to conclude by saying everything has a reason and nothing in this world is unnecessary. Everything has a meaning even to it. Even the thing that you might say, I don't see any meaning. There's a meaning for that too. Now don't go try to question it because it's going to drive you nuts. What's the meaning of everything? Therefore, when we're asking, why did the presidents, the Nesiim, did not give more than 6 wagons? Because it was not needed. We don't need anything that is not with a use. That's it. So the simple answer is, that's the answer. They asked, how many do we need? 6. Here's 6. What are we going to do with the 7th? We don't have a parking lot. What are we going to do with it? Stam pay the insurance and the registration fees? We need 6. We give 6. Very simple. Very simple answer. Why? Because Hashem says, I don't want anything in this world that is extra that one can come and say, we don't need this thing. There's a story, a joke, it's more of a joke, that one person comes to the rabbi, Erev Shabbat, Friday evening, a few minutes before Shabbat, the rabbi comes out of the mikveh, and the man starts talking. The rabbi's like, Shabbat in a few minutes, how can I help you? He says, Rabbi, I want to divorce my wife. He says, okay, so divorce. He says, no, but Rabbi, if I divorce her, who's going to take care of my kids? So the rabbi says, so don't divorce her. Okay. Next week, the exact same thing. Rabbi goes out of the mikveh 10 minutes before Shabbat. The same man. Rabbi, don't ask. What? What now? I want to divorce my wife. So the rabbi says, okay, so divorce her. Rabbi, what's going to do with all the property? We have property. Who's going to get what? What is going to do? So says, no, don't divorce her. The next week, the exact same thing. The rabbi comes out of the mikveh, all wet, 10 minutes before Shabbat. The same man comes, Rabbi, I want to divorce my wife. This time the rabbi says, you know what, I think you should convert to Christianity. He says, what? What is that going to solve my divorce? He's like, it's not going to solve, but at least go drive the priest crazy. So, Hashem does not like when you drive him crazy. In Hebrew it's called bilbulei moach. Why are you coming with all sorts of questions? I want to get divorced, I don't want to get divorced. Same with the rabbi. So go drive somebody else crazy. In English it doesn't sound good. In Hebrew, the joke is in Hebrew, but in Hebrew it says Hashem en bilbulei moach. Hashem doesn't have, let's just, what if? What if? There's no what ifs here. We have a set plan. Don't drive me crazy. Don't lebalbel et hamoach. Just don't. I'm sure there's some term to it in English, but in Hebrew is lebalbel et hamoach. Scrambling the brain. Don't waste my time on nonsense. Hashem says, I don't like all this wasting of the time with what ifs and maybe. And I didn't ask you about a what if. That's the plan. That's what we need to. And exactly, if Hashem created something, there's a purpose for that. Nothing that was created in this world is purposeless or unnecessary. That's the message. Now, one might argue and say, but there's nothing wrong with having wealth and abundance. You're right. The Torah is all about wealth and abundance. The Torah doesn't tell you have to be cheap and poor and live in poverty. No. You have to make it fancy and big and great, and there's nothing wrong with wealth and abundance, but one has nothing to do with the other. Wealth and abundance is one thing, unnecessary, then it's a waste of space in this world. If it doesn't have a purpose, we don't need it. And when you're focusing on yourself, that includes us too. I'm not talking right now what the master of the universe created. Also me. I have a purpose. I have a reason why I was created. Now, if you don't know your purpose, you have a big problem. If you don't know, why did Hashem create me? What do you think, Hashem just needs another person? Hashem doesn't need another person. You have to internalize, and when you wake up in the morning, when you say Modani, take 5.5 seconds to meditate and saying, Hashem created me for a purpose. Am I fulfilling this purpose? And I'm just breathing here? Am I just taking air in this world? Or what is my point in the world? And I have to internalize it and understand and go after and question, what is my purpose in this world? If I don't have a purpose, then what am I here? But if I here, it means I have a purpose. And like I told you, I said it a little bit rough around the edges, that if you don't know your purpose, you have a problem. But that's the reality. A lot of people say, I don't know my purpose. Well, start looking. Start figuring it out. No, not in a lot of the cases, it's not so simple. If you're a mother of children, that's it. Your purpose right now is to raise your children in the path of the Torah. That's it. That's one of the many purposes. And again, now it's not the class to start figuring out what's your purpose. But if you exist, it means you have a purpose, and Hashem didn't create you for nothing. With that said, now let's go back to the beginning of the class, when I told you, what about the time that Hashem gave me? Hashem gives each and every one of us time. You can't buy it. You can't acquire it. You can't win time. Hashem gave me time. Now what do you do with your time? There's a verse in the book of Shemot, chapter 23, verse 26. Et mispar yamecha amaleh. I will fill the number of your days. You think it's by chance that one person lives 90 years and another person lives 80 years and another person lives only 22 years? Et mispar yamecha amaleh, what I will give you X amount of days in your life. That's what Hashem decides. And if you're done with what you're supposed to do, that's it. You're out. Go. You're done. Okay, there is an exception that sometimes a person, chas v'shalom, with negative acts and severe sins can die prior to their time, but the majority die when they're supposed to die, whether it's 20 years or 90 years. So Hashem gives each and every one of us a certain amount of days to do the purpose that I need to do, to fulfill my mission in this world, and it's divided by days. Now comes the big question is, are you doing what you're supposed to do? I know it's a very heavy question, but you have to ask yourself, am I doing what I'm supposed to do, or am I just wasting my time here? Most people waste their time. Now, if you watch the same video over and over on WhatsApp, Facebook, and Twitter, you're wasting your time. It's all the same junk. Now, if you're educating yourself about a certain concept that you need to learn, okay, that's one thing. Unfortunately, in our generation, people, in Hebrew, it's called litchon mayim. They put in the blender water. What are you trying to do? You already know. You already figured it out. What do you need to see? Another video? Another testimonial? Most people, and again, don't take it as a chas v'shalom, a negative approach or an attack on yourself. Rather, take it as inspiring words. Most people waste their time. Most people, if they come to the end of the day and question themselves, did I fulfill what I'm supposed to do in this world? Did I utilize the time that Hashem gave me to do what He told me to do, whether it's in an indirect way or direct way? Most people will come to the conclusion, no, I didn't. I wasted my time. Because instead of doing A, B, and C, I smeared it, and I wasted an hour here, and 2 hours here, and half an hour here, and do you really need to check your messages 17 times an hour? I also have an email, and I also have a WhatsApp, and I check it once a day, sometimes twice a week. People check their messages like you missed your phone, that you need to check if somebody sent you a message, and the junk that people send each other, and that's a waste of time. Thank you. You don't need to start smileys with the tongue out and the this and you need a whole dictionary understanding all these emojis, and just tell me yes, no. Straight to the point. I told you, people tell me you're very not friendly. It's not about being friendly. I have a day full of tasks, and I give you a minute, you 2 minutes, and the rest of the time I have to do A, B, and C. That's it. Don't interfere my schedule. And again, I'm not attacking anybody. I'm just saying the approach is that I have a day to fill. I need to do A, B, and C. I work, all my table is notes. What do I do today? What do I do tomorrow? Everything is calculated. Why? I value my time. And I don't like when people waste my time. Exactly like the guy who comes to the rabbi and I want to divorce my wife. You're asking me the same question over and over. Go and divorce her. That's the answer. That's the approach. The question one needs to ask is, are you doing what you're supposed to do with the valuable time, the priceless time that Hashem gives you to do what He wants you to do? Now comes another big question. What is the system or the reasons or the facts that Hashem decides who will get how much time? Why does this person get 90 years and that person gets 40 years? Why? Well, what's the decision that Hashem decides? Because when a person is born, it's already known in the heavens when the person is going to die and how he's going to die. And like I told you, there are exceptions. We do know of exceptions that people were getting an extension to their life. In many cases, some people do severe sins and they bring on themselves the decree from the heavens, mita bidei shamayim, death by the heavenly court, and they die before their time. But when people write on these death notes, died prior to his time. No. That's an incorrect thing to write. And you know what I'm talking about? There's ads that they put. Met terem zmano. He died prior to his time. Who said? You decided that he died prior to his time? I'm sad to hear that a person in his 30s died. But who says it's prior to his time? That's incorrect. It says he died. Okay, so now we're presented with another question. How does Hashem decide how much time every person will get? I'm interested to know. So the Zohar gives us a very quick and simple answer by saying days are tasks. Now, it doesn't use the word task, it uses the word mesima. Mesima can be a task, can be we'll stay with the word task. I don't like the word task, but the Zohar says the days are tasks, which means that if I have 50 days, 100 days, 5,000 days, it means I have 5,000 tasks. Now, if this is the case, Hashem gives me enough days according to what He wants me to do. So if I live, and I don't know how long I'm going to live, it's not Hashem, I'll live many, many years, but if I live 90 years, then it means 90 times the amount of days per year, that's the amount of tasks that Hashem gave me. Which means that every day is a standalone day. A day that today I have whatever tasks I need to do. Maybe my task today is to give charity. Maybe tomorrow my task is to help this person. And the next day is to learn Torah and to be kind to this person. And I don't know what my tasks are. I need to figure it out. But the fact is that if Hashem chooses to give me a certain amount of days according to the tasks He wants me to do, that's the tasks that I need to do. And now we're going back to the first question is, do I come to the end of the day and sit on my bed or on your couch or wherever and say, Kriyat Shema Lamita, the bedtime Shema, can you answer a quick questionnaire if you fulfilled what you're supposed to do today? Now I know a lot of people will come and say, listen, I don't know what my tasks are. I didn't get an email in the morning, go do A, B, and C. So first of all, you have to figure out what Hashem wants from you. And it's very simple. It's simple because Hashem sends you all the messages, all the hints, all the options. You just have to be aware of what Hashem wants me to do. So Hashem made you observant, so obviously He wants you to pray. And if you don't pray every day, you're lacking a big part of your task. And women also have to pray. Don't listen to anyone who comes and tells you, women don't have to pray. It's not correct. Ashkenazi women have to pray twice a day, and Sephardi women have to pray once a day. Have to. No, you choose. Mincha, Arvit, Shacharit, do whatever you want. But don't come and tell me Kriyat Shema Lamita is a prayer. Or Birkat Hamazon. That's not a prayer. It is a prayer. But we're talking about Shacharit, Mincha, or Arvit. You choose. Hard for you. You're busy. Do Mincha. It's a very short prayer. But you have to. So if you didn't, then one of those checks on the list you didn't do. And by that, you go and you figure out. Like I told you, now is definitely not the time to give the right tools, how to find what is my tasks and my purpose. But you first need to get the awareness that I am required to do certain things. And more than that, I need to understand that when I don't do my tasks, I have two options. Option number one, that I'll never have the opportunity to do it again. Now I'm going to have a problem coming up to the world above by saying I didn't do some of the tasks. Option number two, which is much less problematic, is that the task will roll over to the next day. So then the next day I have much more things to do. And then I'm carrying a burden on me, a spiritual burden. And then life becomes a little bit hard, and I'm less happy, less inspired to do all sorts of things, because I didn't do what I'm supposed to do today. Now ask yourself, how many times, be honest, how many times, I see it with my own eyes, how many times you washed your hands, you said Amotzi lechem min haaretz, you ate a meal, and then you got busy with other things and you forgot to say Birkat HaMazon. Be honest with yourself. You don't have to say, this is not an AA meeting. You don't have to come and say it out loud. You just enough, you tell us, now why didn't you say Birkat HaMazon? Because you went on WhatsApp and saw a video? Or because somebody distracted? Now, if you are a paramedic and you were called to save a person's life, I will let you go this time. But if you were busy with nonsense, I'm sorry to tell you, you didn't do one of the tasks that you were supposed to do. Now, will you get the chance to do it again? No, because on that time that you ate, you didn't praise and thank Hashem for giving you food. And I'm giving you one example out of many. You develop this idea and the thought to the direction where you can understand, okay, what do I need to do? But the conclusion here is that Hashem says every day is a task. Whether the task concludes 40 details or one, that's a whole different thing. Whether today's your task just to help a certain person for 5 minutes and the rest of the day you do what you need to do, that we don't really know. And it's irrelevant at this point. You just have to set your mind that every day is a very important, powerful day because I have things to do in this world and this day will not come back. And one day I'm going to have to give an account to the Master of the universe who gave me these days and the tasks. Why I did not do it? What are you going to come to tell Hashem? I was on Facebook, arguing on some comment, slandering the entire world, going backwards and forth because somebody said a comment, and I'm giving one example out of many, because people waste their time on all this nonsense. Or seeing some cat breakdancing on a video and then poof, hearts coming out and the cat is like, and Shabbat Shalom, and just say Shabbat Shalom. Sometimes I get videos, it's a minute and a half video, and at the end, poof, Shabbat Shalom. Couldn't you just write Shabbat Shalom? I had to see twirling roses and balloons and... There's a story, hold on, we're almost done. There's a story about a great sadiq who's known as the holy Jew from Pshischa. Okay, it was a small town in Poland, great individual. Great, was a huge tzaddik. And one day he became very sick. And the doctors say his days are numbered, he's about to die. Okay, his son couldn't take the fact that maybe Chas v'Shalom he would lose his father, takes his horse and buggy and he drives to the near town of Lublin, where in the same period of time was a great tzaddik, the Jose from Lublin. He goes to him and he tells him, my father is on his deathbed. What do we do? Okay, Jose from Lublin took himself to a great level of meditation, and then he gives him an answer. And he tells him a verse from the book of Bamidbar, chapter 13, verse 2, Shlach lecha anashim v'yaturu. Send out for yourself men who will scout. We're going to read it in 3 weeks in Parashat Shlach lecha, right? When Hashem tells Moshe, send people, send spies to the land of Israel, that they should scout the land. Now what's the connection between this verse and the actual story and the fact that this holy Jew from Shischa is about to die? So there's no connection to the parasha, by the way. But rather, he told him, when Hashem sees that a person finished his mission in this world, then the person has to die. That's it. Hashem, of course, will find the natural cause, how the person will die. Car accident, chas v'shalom, heart attack, chas v'shalom, and many others. But that was the, Hashem says he finished his task. Time to go. So what did the Jose from Lublin told him? He says, I see that the children want their father to live, right? So he says, Shlach lecha anashim sheyaturu. He says, go and find new tasks or missions for your father to do, so now he will get more days. Right? If he finishes mission in this world, then find new missions. So the son said, I am saying out loud that my father will take on himself to open what's called the chatzer, that he will open his office, his whatever, his house, to accept people to come and ask questions. You know, that's a big thing. He's a great sadiq, a great rabbi. And sure enough, he drove back to Pshischa, and the father took on himself to open his time. I'm going to start giving my time to answer questions. You know, some rabbis you try to get an appointment with, no, he doesn't meet people right now. But I have a question. So go to a different rabbi. So he took on himself to do that, and sure enough, he got healthy and lived a few more years. Why? Because he took on himself new tasks. So that I'm saying as a side note that if chas v'shalom somebody is showing signs of about to leave, tell him to take more tasks on themselves. I take on myself to do A, B, and C. You never know. Maybe that would be a loophole to add more days. That's what I'm trying to give over. I'm trying to give over that our days are tasks. Look at your days of your life as missions. Today is a mission. I once said it in a funny, poetic, metaphorical way, that when you wake up in the morning, you sit on your bed, you say, most people say it so fast you don't understand what they're saying. You have to say it a little bit slow, take some breaths between the words. But you don't notice, but a little note comes from above, and it falls next to you. Now you're too busy with going to run to your phone to check your messages, you don't notice that there's a note next to you. Oh, what is that? Oh, today I have to work on my patience. Oh. And then you step off the bed, you step on a toy that your child left. I have to work on my patience. So we're so busy with all the junk in front of us, we're not focusing on the task that Hashem tells me to do today. And that's one example of many. Yeah, maybe today your task is to work on your patience. And all day long, people are going to drive you crazy. That you, today I have to work on my patience. Now, how do you get to the awareness of what do I have to do today? Like, no, that's not the class. I'm telling you, that's the basic idea. To understand that every day is a task, is a mesima, is a mission. And from that, I need to know that I can't be lazy. I can't do nothing. I can't just sit and do I think the word in English is idle. Now I know a lot of people say, but I need to take a vacation. Okay, take a vacation once a year. Don't have to take a vacation twice a week. Take a vacation whenever you need. And even in the vacation, you still need to eat. So also pray and find something productive to do. But you can't just sit there and just do not. Sometimes I see people just sitting right now. Why are you just standing there? You know, all my pockets are full of pamphlets. I stand if I go to somewhere and I see a line. Okay, take out a book of Tehillim. You can squeeze in 2 chapters of Tehillim. Or some halacha or something. You're just standing there. So the point we want to take from that is not only that our days are valuable, you can't be lazy with your time. Now, the divine providence, the Ashgacha Pratit, is we're also now at the time of the Omer. There's a lot of messages behind the Omer, but one of the main ones is telling us that every day has a certain task, a job. That's why you say, Hayom Yom Sheni LaOmer, Hayom Yom Shlishi LaOmer. Why don't we, technically you would say, Ayom chesed shebegvura. Today, Ayom Yom Shlishi or 23 yamim, to say it's a whole separate day. The whole separate day. It's a big question in Halacha. If the Sfirat Omer is one thing, why don't we say the bracha in the beginning of the Omer and then the rest of the night? So I don't have to say a bracha. It's one thing, one entity. Or said you say, no, every day is a standalone day. Yeah, the whole counting is one concept, but every day is a whole standalone day. So Hashem gave me a day. I need to ask myself, what did I do with my day? And a greater question that I need to ask myself, did I contribute something today to this world? So these are big questions that you need to ask, but if you don't, you will find yourself wasting your time another day, another week, another month, another year, more lists of things to do, more things that you didn't achieve, and the days pass, and the weeks pass, and the months pass. The days of Mashiach, before Mashiach is coming, are counted. I'm sure you noticed that you do Havdalah, and before you know it, you already have to prepare for Shabbat. Why didn't you feel that 20 years ago? Because right now, if you're looking like at a sand clock, the top of the sand clock is full of sand. You don't see when it goes down. Now when we're so close to the coming of Mashiach, we're already at when? So every millimeter that goes down, you feel it. And the days are numbered. So now is the time to waste my time. Every moment here is like a diamond. I can't stand when time is wasted. People waste my time. I'm like, get to the point. Some people tell me a whole story. I don't need the story. Give me the question, I'll give you my answer. I don't need to hear the story. No, I got to tell you and don't ask. And I didn't ask. Tell me the question, I'll try to get to the point. Don't waste my time. Time is so precious and so valuable. I'm going to waste it on nonsense? And the Yetzer Hara in our generation is master of taking your time. Manipulating every situation that you will waste your time. And comes 9 o'clock in the evening, you didn't do nothing, you didn't even eat dinner yet, days wasted, and tomorrow another day and another day, and you're carrying on yourself all these tasks, and Hashem is waiting for you. So when we question again, like I told you in the beginning, why the presidents, when we attack them, why didn't you give more wagons? Because it was not needed. Nothing in this world has no purpose, and Hashem says, I don't need something in this world that is not needed. Take that and switch it over, it means that I'm needed, not me, you. You have to tell yourself, I am needed for my spouse, for my kids, for my students, for my neighbors, for the world. You have to look in the mirror once a day, if not 100 times a day, and say, I have a purpose, I am needed, I am important. To you, to you, to you. A lot of people say, I have no value. Oh, nobody cares. If I would leave, nobody would notice. If Hashem wouldn't want you here, He would take you a long time ago. If you're here, when you wake up in the morning and you're thanking Hashem for opening your eyes, you have to already thank Hashem for giving me a task. And what is my task? Hashem, show it to me. Show me what I need to do today. Trust me, He will show you right away. If you need to work on patience, He will put an annoying person in front of your face. If you need to work on your midah of being forgiving, then right on the morning or the afternoon, something will happen that you will have to, okay, I forgive. Let's move on. And every day Hashem will present with you the basic things He wants you to do. And the major question you need to ask yourself at the end of the day, Hashem gave me to the day. Did I finish everything? And like I told you before, the major question you need to ask, did I contribute today something to this world? And if you cannot come with a good answer, then it's a day wasted. You have to take that message and say, I need to contribute something to the world every day. Every day, not every week, and say, okay, I'll summarize it to once a week. No, every day. Et mispar yamecha amaleh. Every day, I have to contribute something to this world because Hashem gave me the opportunity, gave me the means, gave me the tools, and I am unique. There's no other people like me in the world, not me. I'm talking in the voice that you have to play in your head. There's no duplicate of you. There's no clone of you. even though they're trying. But But you are unique. Now go with this power and make a huge change in the world.